or whatever, but I can earmark, put those things on the cover letter for those coupon books. And then, but we're really excited. Nancy and her team are gonna do a concession stand at the race. And we're gonna, the night of the holiday shop, we're thinking Friday, I'm excited about this idea. The Friday night, we'll do a movie night and the shop just for our kids. And then Saturday, we could open it up to the whole county. And that would be a way to get the Montessori kids. Maybe they'd come here and shop.
That's a good idea. We can invite the
So we
charter
could
schools to
specifically
come shop.
invite them.
When you do that, we have banner ads for Fox to Tweens.
Oh, great, okay.
So whatever that is, I usually go through, I can give you her contact and you can just send her something with me on it.
Okay.
When it's ready, and then it'll just be whatever type of banner. We have all kinds of different sizing, I don't know. But you can find out that they'll send, whoever
Oh, that's
wants to
great.
go.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, the race may not, because, and Sue pointed out, I kind of got into this a little bit late, so we tried to, there was the idea of the golf tournament floating and we couldn't execute that in the fall, so we decided to do the race. And if it's sluggish, then we'll learn from that mistake and we'll plan ahead next year. But I'm concerned if some of the packets haven't been distributed, that's a different issue.
Well, I
So-
don't know about anybody else, but I mean, because we were in the library last
Oh, yeah,
year.
no, I
together,
know.
So you know
And
what
my-
so I was ready for it. I
Okay.
had my stuff ready to go, but I didn't.
Well, I can get you another one. I'm sending mine electronically, so you can have mine.
Okay.
I'll leave it for you tomorrow.
Not this weekend, before 2 weekends ago.
Shelley, do you need it too?
You guys, 2 weeks ago? Shelley just got hers Thursday.
I think I can just got her.
It was 2 Thursdays, so 2 Thursdays ago, I left them for the teachers to distribute.
I think that's an ongoing concern that things don't come out in a timely manner.
Like the
From
directory
the
was
teachers.
2 different Thursdays that it
Okay.
came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that because my
They have
CCs didn't go out.
Yes.
So maybe the Carlin Flowers will
CC,
prompt
he
you.
came in at night.
Yeah.
I'll bring some extra
He came
packets if
at
people need
night
them.
To make sure that the CC stuff was in there and it didn't go out.
Well, I would put, I don't think it's been implemented, but in the regular public school, Thursday is the day any type of information comes home.
Yeah, it is.
Not everybody knows it's the Thursday folder to come and look for it.
They'll wait till the following.
But what I'm saying is for teachers or staff, if they know every Thursday
Yeah, that's not an issue.
is how it comes out.
Teachers and staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but they know.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're sending home the Thursday folder.
Yeah.
We have to find out if the information is there the time that they put everything in that Thursday folder. It might be showing up at, 3 o'clock, and then, it's already in their backpack, or maybe it's showing up in the morning and they're just forgetting to put it in. I don't know.
Well,
So
I
we'll have
left
to find out more
the, in this
information
case,
before.
I left the packets on Wednesday night
Yes.
at everybody's door.
Yeah, I did see that.
They did triple,
Yeah.
right?
Than that.
So they
I
couldn't-
agree, and I sent out an email as well, so.
What's that?
And Nancy's went in directly into their boxes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I make sure I usually put them in Wednesday night. And even if they just tell us, can you please bring, if they give us a day, like we need it by Tuesday, because Wednesday we put them together, so Wednesday's too late. If they give us a day when they need it by, because I know Lacey and me, we've both done it to where we come after school on Wednesday night to do it. That way we're not interrupting teacher's printer, we're not interrupting anybody's time, or anything. And so we come in late to try to get this done, and then when we're running something and we're looking at our kids' book bags, or other families are telling us we're not getting it, we're like, well, we were here late trying to get this done. So if they give us a deadline, let's say we need it by Tuesday night opposed to Wednesday night, we'll make sure to get it in their mailbox. It's just a communication thing. If
Yeah.
just tell us when they want it by, we'll make sure it's on there by that point. Because then we know it's our fault we do it late,
Lancy, I have one question. I saw in a communication that if you wanted to find out who was
Yes.
on your list for the last Grace of Education,
Yeah.
like, okay, I put like 15 addresses. Maybe I want to use different people to ask this time to help. You mentioned that we could contact the front office?
Yeah, so Anna, there's a file in the front. Anna has not only the labels, but who donated for you.
Oh,
So
good.
she's got copies of the canceled checks. It's all like locked up, but Chrissy knows where it is.
But Chrissy could get it.
Chrissy
from
can
me
get
if
to
I
it.
ask her.
I had my husband look at mine, so I knew what was in it. It's a copy of the labels plus canceled checks.
Okay, so if I go in and ask Chrissy, it's
Chrissy.
not going to be a big deal. I don't want to,
I did not get the impression that was a big deal. I'm gonna be here tomorrow morning and I'll touch base with her on that.
Okay,
So I'll make sure.
that'll be fine.
Last year it was in the filing cabinet, right, like when you're turning, and it was like right on the side towards your desk, there's the
I think it's,
two-tiered filing cabinet.
Right,
I
where
know
the
when she
sign-in
took
is.
over, I don't know if she moved it or not, but it was very simple last year. I mean, I went and looked at mine because originally we were gonna send out thank yous. I think it was gonna be sent out, and that's why we had like the regular names.
right.
And so, since Anna was like, no, it's not happening, so I was like, oh, well, then I wanna make sure I know in my family, because my family will think I'm just being rude if I don't acknowledge that they
Well,
sent
what-
money in.
Well, also, the other thing I'm gonna do is, when I get the labels, I'm gonna check, and if people donated last year, I'm gonna put a handwritten thank you on their ask for this year, that says, thank you for donating last year.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna do a thank you, like a blanket thank you, but it's new people, and it seemed
Yeah.
awkward, but I'll
That's
just
a
make
good
a little
idea.
note.
Yeah, that's a good idea. People,
So I
I
think-
think people will respond to that, especially because they're opening again for the second year. So if they
Right.
see, you know, thank you for donating last year, we're gonna ask you again. I think they'll like that. But it was very simple. It's a nice little, it's just a little vanilla envelope, you know, little folder or whatever, and you open it, it's got all your stuff in there. I think there's really little teeny tiny slivers like this for online credit card ones, I believe. I think that's what was
PayPal.
on there. So just make sure if you have it,
Oh, right.
that you know, don't open it and drop out the little teeny slip and miss that person. But it's
Now-
all in there very, very nice.
And at some point when the timing is good, I tested out that recurring donation, Tim, that PayPal has a way you can set it up and donate, like I set it up to donate $20 a month to the school. And we should let people know that that's a possibility through PayPal.
Yeah.
So there people may just sign up and say $10 a month and they donate 120 and they don't feel the impact as much.
Yeah.
So that might be a separate message somehow, and Allison, Rizzo, and I are gonna get together and talk about
Yeah,
communication.
that is something that we've always tried to instill. I know from year one, just trying to get families to just do that 10, 15, whatever they can a month. So this is the reminder.
We can message that again, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that sounds great. We already talked about some volunteerism opportunities by going to the website, like Lonnie mentioned, so that's there. Okay, financial update is our next to last item, and I think Tim Summers might have a little information.
Yep. So Frederick Classical completed its first quarter of the fiscal year ending September 30th. The report is available on the website. We have quarterly reported that's due to FCPS that has been submitted. We ended the quarter with 142,000 in the bank, and we're due a payment from FCPS for the coming quarter, which we'll receive that soon. We're in the process of changing credit card signers, and probably the best way to do that is to address it now. Capital One requires us to name an authorized agent. That authorized agent doesn't necessarily have to be a cardholder, but they will select who is the cardholder. In the past, that was Ginger, so we had one more hoop to jump through with that. We could, I guess, do a motion to name someone new as the authorized agent. They don't necessarily have to be a cardholder. And then we can sign this paperwork and send it back.
Oh, that's all right, we can do it
No,
now.
what is stuck on here? Sorry.
That's fine. So why don't you go ahead
Okay.
so we have to have
I
an
gotta
authorized.
write something up, right, is what I saw in that little email.
You don't actually need to write anything for this one, you just need to sign as the secretary,
Oh, okay.
affirming that we named whoever it is to be the authorized agent. And the agent can go name cardholders.
Okay,
It's got more complicated.
so who wants to be the authorizing agent?
Make a motion for Michelle, since she's got the
That's suggestion.
last place. So it just makes sense to continue the tradition.
I said, that's a good idea. You knew that, because I told you that in an email.
You had said, yeah, that I thought
And
I
you
should
really
have
answered.
one. Yeah. That might go away.
It's not a big deal, it's not
It's
like
fine.
you, like,
Yes.
you know.
It's not like my other
spending
account.
money. Right. I can't go.
Just
No.
stand your life away.
Good.
You may have a
All right,
long
so
stay.
Tara has made a motion, and I have seconded the motion for Michelle to be what you call the
The
authorizer.
authorized agent.
Authorizing agent.
So she signs once.
Now, who are our FCCS credit card holders? I know Phil
His
is
name
one
is
of them.
Phil. I think. I'm sorry, Erica is a card holder.
Right.
And
Megan
maybe
is
only-
Megan is a card holder.
Right.
Megan Diocampo. And Phil, and then there really should be somebody else from the
I
board.
think there needs to be an, I said that last time, I think there needs to be on that person.
I mean, I'm never around during the day. I'm useless as a card holder, really.
Maybe it's your choosing.
I mean, I'm okay with just Phil and Megan.
I guess if Shelley,
I'm okay with doing that.
Yeah.
You're okay too?
I would be doing that.
Oh, okay. We're a no pressure board here. Okay. So good, that's one thing to take off the next board meeting agenda.
So I don't have to fill out anything.
What is that?
Now for the GMC checks.
So I'm a check signer.
Checks under.
Okay, so we have to make sure that the motion has now been approved.
Right.
So we're all, we have it all in favor.
So we're adopting a resolution making Michelle as an authorized agent.
Okay, is everyone in favor of that? Anyone opposed? Okay, it's been passed.
While we're on the subject of check signers, sorry, I know this is not on there, but since we're in financial benefits, Elena, opened up the thing today and was said that, stuff hadn't gone through from last week. So she was just a little concerned about it, so I just thought I would bring it up and just make sure that whoever it is that's signing, bringing whatever you guys are doing, that, it's supposed, she said Tuesday mornings, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, last week we got a little off because of the holiday, I think, and also key changes. And also we added Lee as a check signer. So I think starting this week, we can have Lee be one of the check signers and a board member coming either Tuesday morning or this case we can get it done.
But who does the depositing? Okay, so we still need a board member to come in.
Right. So we
Tuesday
can-
morning.
Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
I can sign up.
So she can sign on Tuesday morning too, right? For non-board nights. I know. Well, that's why you signed a bunch of stuff. But she just brought that up to me, so she seemed very, like, when she opened it, she was like, oh, so I just figured I should bring it up in front of all of us so that.
Right, that's an unusual thing, so
Yeah.
we'll take care of it.
All right, are there any board comments before we conclude the evening? All right, just thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for all of our board members and for Mr. Bowley. All right, that's a good one. Do you want to say?
Just because you guys, since you guys are already here, and what do you think us as a board can do, or we can do as a school, to encourage other parents to come to board meetings? Or is it just hot topics, or what? What do you think might encourage other people to come out?
A buffet.
Any particular restaurant?
Tom proposed one
What was that?
You couldn't do it in a restaurant, they wouldn't come here. They'd eat and go home. You'd have to eat here.
Because I think that people are kind of like, oh, I'm gonna make, oh, well, it's next month, I can go to the next one. You know, 'cause I think they just think the occurrence. And I think when they're too often, because you want them to be, especially when people are volunteer, which is usually committee things are once a month too. And then this is once a month, and then I just think if it were quarterly for the community and just kind of give an overall, then it's like everything's piled in 4 times out of the year.
So you're saying like once per marking term?
Yes, and it's kind of.
Michelle,
I don't think that's a good
Yeah.
idea. I can tell you from, especially from last year's perspective, we would have been quarterly, can you imagine what
The
would
meeting can
happen?
still be open, where people can still attend our board
Right.
meetings.
Board meetings.
But I think if you're gonna do a community meeting, that it should be more of a meeting
Yeah.
that's just open for more open discussion, more feedback, that, you know, we can have more dialogue. of people, then.
And if something comes up where it feels like there's more, you can have an emergency meeting. Just because we say quarterly, it doesn't mean we can't have something if something arises that it feels that we need to address
Well,
something.
what if we took a hybrid of that and did one every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks?
If you do that, that's gonna, I still think once a month is really a better option, and I can tell you, we have, a support group for the Autism Society, and we said, oh, let's just do it every other month, because every month people weren't coming, we were at least still come to those, well, we had less people attend, because they weren't sure if it was this month or if it was next month, even though you send out the notes. But if it's every month, then.
Well, maybe we'll take it up for, we'll see what it votes. You want to vote on it at a more student meeting?
Oh, that's true.
You can ask, what do you guys think?
I think monthly is good, but you have to give people a purpose for coming. I think you lost a lot of people when the format changed with the public comment and it was less interactive. So I think that intimidated people. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if it's true or not.
Okay.
Do you mean when we got rid of the open discussion at the end?
No, in the very beginning, it was much more interactive. Like you talk about, introduction to the Board of Trustees new member, and then there would be an interactive piece between the people sitting here and the board. And then you move on to the next piece of business. It was more interactive. It took a lot longer, so I'm happier that these are shorter. But I think that when the interactive piece left, I think a lot of people left because I felt like they weren't involved in the conversation. They were just listening to decisions that were being made and not a part of those decisions. So if it would become more interactive, you might get more people back.
But, I mean, for me, before I was on the board, the last one I came to was awful. I was like, if it's like that, I will never, because the only comments that were coming out was the negativity. There's never any positive out of it. So all it does is, in my opinion, all it did was put everybody on edge, because nobody comes to say this is what's positive is going on. Everybody comes to say what's negative happening. And there's more positive usually than negative. And so that's where that was my biggest motivation, or wanting to get rid of the public comment, because all it does is fester more and more and more issues that really are minimal. I mean, there's really not as many people that have some of those issues as they do that it appears. You know what I mean? Yes, those are valid issues for that set of people or that individual, but it encompasses everybody and it makes it look like it's the whole community, and it's not. And that was that was before I was here. I was, if that happened again, it was awful. It was absolutely awful.
I think too, if you're recording, no one here is asked to sign in, that if you'd say, only 8 people showed up, 10 people showed up, you're publicizing how many people are coming and what's coming out of it. But I do think when it became, I'm here just to listen, I say something at the beginning, I'm listening, people didn't feel like they had a voice. So when they lost their voice, they lost their purpose for coming. And I agree, I don't want to ever go back to that negativity.
Right, and I agree with you on the sense, but it's like, I don't know how you get that balance.
The balance.
I think we have quarterly meetings to get that balance.
Yeah, that
Because
quarterly does,
I
yeah.
think we can't stay here till 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
No.
But I think if we have a quarterly meeting, I think it's important still to allow people to have a voice. And if we're only having a meeting where it's pretty much your meeting, you can really read the minutes of our meeting to find out what happened. But if you want to have more dialogue, you need to have a meeting at some point throughout the school year where you can have some dialogue. And even if it's some negative things come up in that dialogue, then I think it's just a part of our growth. Like we can't really grow if we're not able to look at some of our negative things. We don't want to harp on them, but see how we can make those things better.
To me, what we did last year when we met specifically with, by grade, towards the end of the year, when we called the deep dive thing, we had those little meetings. I feel like those kind of things are a way to have that open dialogue. But in this setting, in the board meeting setting, how I was explaining when I came on was, when we have these twice a month. This one that we have is open where, people can come in to the other ones. So like you can come in, but there's some stuff that we talk about that we can't discuss in front of, things like that. So you would have to be asked to leave. It seems kind of weird, but so for this one, it was supposed to just be from what I understood, the founders, was more of like to make it open so that people within the school can see what happens at the board meeting, what decisions are being made, what things are happening with transparency. Yeah. So it was supposed to be like that.
It was kind of dual purpose of informational, and plus we may vote on something.
And I thought by having the public comment and adding the update of what came out of the last public comment, I thought that that would help, because last year I felt like what was starting to happen was people were talking, and then it was, okay, and we weren't responding back, because that was the format. But then we were responding amongst each other, we were going through lots of stuff, so we really wanted to expand the transparency and let people know, hey, we heard you, and this is what we did, and this is what we're continuing to do. And so this year, it just hasn't really been,
There
hasn't been much
public comment.
to go in,
The whole
but I thought
point
that
is-
would help, so then that's still that, it's not like the direct dialogue, but it's seeing your action, you know, what you want to happen, like you're seeing action from what you're saying. I would think like an open dialogue type meeting, that would be a separate thing. So if you wanted to do that quarterly, then that makes sense, because you have a quarterly thing where it's like, hey, kind of like what we do with the staff. But you have parents show up, you know, and you have parents, and we discuss and things like that, things are brought up. Something like that makes sense, but to change the actual board meetings to that, where is our stuff gonna fall in? Because I tell you what, 9 people on a board and email threads are not fun. So, and I know we haven't even gotten into anything really big yet, so.
But we meet monthly too, and all of those decisions are getting handled.
We meet twice a month now.
But that's where most of those, the majority of those have been going on in there, not here. I mean, these were just basically updates. We had for very few voting, but that's more in the other. So I don't really
I
think
think
we
it just
lose
happens to be when
anything
this stuff
by.
came up. Because honestly, if we lose one meeting a month, that means we're literally having one meeting a month, one board meeting a month to handle
Yeah.
all of the stuff that we're discussing throughout the time. And because of the amount of the board, we used to do a lot of voting over email and say, okay, this issue came up, this is a quick, whatever, and we do this voting. It's becoming very difficult to do it over emails. I mean, we noticed that from Mrs. Cummins sent us a big list before she left to try to get all her stuff handled, and
That was
then we started adding new board members. It was crazy. Sue and I had a meeting before one of the meetings, because I'm like, I'm sorry, but I got kind of like, this is just too much, so I just want to make sure I understand it, and we wrapped it up. So to me, to lose a meeting, an in-face meeting, is going to create more of an.
What we should do is probably discuss how we, if we want to add a open dialogue meeting once per quarter to the existing community meetings. I mean, if our community meetings are going to be attended by 10 people, we may as well just have them once every 2 months, because, although I think this is a great opportunity to be able to know what's going on for us, to kind of tell you for informational purposes, as well as you to see us talking and interacting and voting. I don't know, I mean,
Maybe that would be something we need to do. Maybe we need to have our business meetings in here, and people are invited to our business meetings. And if we're doing something that is closed session, we save it to the end.
And,
We just miss over,
But maybe we have all of our meetings here, and
whoever rolls in, but, those meetings, obviously,
there's still committee back and forth.
there's still gonna be back and forth. I mean, I just want to avoid the 10 p.m. ending for meetings, so I'd like to wrap up, because it's been a long day, but Nancy, you
I
had
think there should be a reminder left to parents, some kind of reminder sent the Monday even.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the
You know,
emails are nice.
Just writing on the easil at Carline helps.
Yeah, not really, it's only
You
in
don't
us
think
here.
that helps enough?
No.
Reminder, community meeting.
Which possibility is it? Because I've been putting it out, and I don't always come.
I mean, I think there should be a reminder out, because to be honest, I remembered, because I think Susan said something to me, I was like, okay, no, Tara said something to me. I was like, all right, I'll make dinner be on my way. And my kids had dinner here. So I think a reminder would be nice, but I think the dialogue is one part that kind of made it go, so you're here to listen. I think we're doing that.
Yeah.
So, do you think there needs to be more dialogue?
I think so.
And
I think so. And I mean, I will say, I think a lot of us will say there's a lot of positive things going on in our school this year. And I really don't see it being so much negative. We've had hard work done on Carline that's very appreciated.
Okay, what about this? So some of these items, like today, I'm sure that there's not gonna necessarily, need to be that open, you know, so you guys might not have anything to say, right? So some of those won't, and then what about if there is, when we open it up, if we were to add that then? If we were to open up and say, but there's like a time limit on it?
Well,
And
you know,
put a
even-
timer and just say, okay, we're gonna have, you know, if there's a big topic that people wanna discuss, so we'll say, okay, does anybody want to, you know, add to this? And then if people add, then we'll say, okay, so we're gonna have this time, and it'd be a set time limit, and, you know, everybody needs to get their stuff out in that amount of time, and then we move on to the next one. That way we're not dragging out. Some of those topics last year were like an hour on one topic, and nobody wants to sit through that. So, do you think that would work, or?
Better management.
A timer.
A timer.
A
timer.
Well, even if they, you know how they sign in to make open comments? If they say what they want to comment on, and then you have the people who signed in say, okay, hold on, somebody wants to say something about this. And
About-
they're signed in at that
For the
point.
agenda item.
Yeah, they see the agenda's out there where you sign in. So if they just sign in, I said, can I please add a comment on this? And you know who's gonna say what, where. And then once you've seen how many people have signed in for a certain thing, you'll see something that, okay, a lot of people want to talk about this. Let's try to make these other ones shorter because this one's gonna take longer.
That, and you may answer the questions that people have. They might ask questions during the public comment that you're intending to answer during your discussion anyway, so it might resolve itself without even that much public comment.
Well, I'm not really, you know, interested in changing the format after only having 2 community meetings. You know, it's been September and October. I think one of the reasons that people aren't coming, and maybe I'm being naive, I think people are kind of happy with the way things are running right now. When people are unhappy, they tend to come to these meetings. So the fact that we don't have a lot, maybe, you know, there's a lot of people that are satisfied, oh yeah, things are going fine, I really don't need to go, I'll read it, you know, I'll look at it in the minutes. I think there's a certain amount of that going on.
Do you think there's any like uneducation about it? For instance, when we first started, I only knew about it because, and I forget who it was that I was talking to, you know, just happened to meet, and then they said, oh, you're coming to the meeting, and I'm like, meeting? And they're like, yeah, they have this board, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to go to that? And they're like, yeah, you're supposed to go to that, and I was like, oh, okay. So, and especially with charter, it's just not around very much, so a lot of people don't have Montessori experience. Some do, a lot of people don't. So if you don't have that experience, then you don't necessarily know. So maybe there needs to be like a re-education about what it's about, or, I mean, do people don't know?
You don't necessarily have a board of trustees in
Right.
a public school
Well,
environment.
we could reiterate that in the, you know, every Thursday there is a communication that everybody gets in the email. I look forward to, you know, reading that and making sure I'm aware, you know.
But board of trustees, meaning your attendance is strongly encouraged. I don't know that really
And then the
is
agenda,
very
and
inviting.
then Allison sends the
Sends the
agenda
agenda.
out, so
Yeah.
that's another reminder, hey, not only is there a meeting, but here's what we're gonna be talking about. I mean, if people wanna come, they're gonna come. And if they don't wanna come, you can send 10 agendas and, you know, a free gift. And they still not gonna come.
I bet they'll come for a free gift.
Depends on what the free gift is. All right, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
No, you can't.
I know I can't make a motion.
Can I
Yeah,
just
okay.
say, you know, as long as I'm here, I'm hoping I'm taking some of the hot topics out of this forum.
Yeah, I
You know,
think you are.
When the problem happened with the car line, it was important to me that I hear the stakeholders' views on and ideas. Can't use them all, but I needed to hear some things. Brett will tell you, we were meeting a lot to try to figure out, okay, let's stand back and look at this from a parent standpoint of how we can be better and how we can do what we need to do. And again, that's what I need, because I don't want to wait until the community meeting
Right.
to discuss what should have happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
That's
I know,
me
but
personally.
that
Very
is,
grateful for that.
that was awesome.
It was perfect, because it was like, that first day was awful, but then the day we came back, it was like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think some of
a
it
breeze. So-
probably, I would think I put some parents at ease when I sent that letter admitting, yeah, there was a problem there,
Yes.
Yeah,
and we're working on it.
yeah.
It's not gonna be a quick fix, because I don't want it to be a quick fix.
But it was, in comparison, I mean, truly,
Yeah.
I mean, one day, I mean, you know, the one, and then they have the weekend. I mean, it was very, I mean, I was impressed as a parent, because I was like, oh, no, I mean, it was awesome.
That day really was the perfect storm.
Yeah, it was.
Down 3 subs and didn't have a whole bunch of people out there that normally were, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since you're talking about Caroline, I still think that in the mornings, I still think, because we're one of the people that gets here about 8:30, and people forget they're supposed to take turns. There's no one there to remind them.
Yeah, you're always getting cut off.
I've been cut
these emails.
I've been cut off 4
You've been
times
cut off
already,
every
and
other
that's only
day.
in 2 months. And I mean, because I'm there and I'm waiting, because you can't tell how stacked up the cars are going to be.
Right.
When I realize, okay, there's enough space for me, then I'll
Yes,
pull around.
exactly.
But the person to the side of me is always too impatient, and I mean, they keep cutting up further, and it makes you feel rushed to
You'll
do
have 3
something
people
you're
from
not
the left
supposed
cut
to
while
do.
you're waiting, and then they're sitting.
I've had people cut
Cuts
me off on
or
both
whatever.
sides, I think.
Yeah. Well, what happens
No,
is
but
at
I
a
mean,
certain
when you're sitting here, you're parked, and they'll just go, and they'll be on the road. Even my
And
son
then
is in the
they
back,
block
like,
the
they
traffic.
can't be there blocking the road.
Well,
He's
part of it's
6.
looking up on Helix. What happens is in the 2-line formation, for some reason at a certain time, everybody starts lining up in one row.
But it's not that.
But it's supposed
It's
to.
not yet.
Oh, well, that's what I get.
There's been significant 2 lines.
I get the 2, and then I'm like, well, we're supposed to be making 2 lines. I can't
No.
help it that nobody does.
There's 2 lines there, and people are not alternating. So
Yes,
they
and that's what I mean, but that's usually what I see happens, is it's been, because I've had it where it's been, for whatever reason, people instead of forming 2 lines, they start forming 1, and then I'm like, well, I can't help it, you're doing this.
We don't have a.
So then I go around, and then people speed up to cut you off because they know they need one around them.
I don't see that as much of an issue.
No, I'm not available in the mornings.
And then they
It's your fault, John.
2 things that are in the works. Mr. Bickle started
Yes.
the process of outlining parent responsibility, student responsibility, staff responsibility, classroom teacher responsibility. When I say staff, I meant the duty staff. And so that everybody has in writing what the expectations are. So we'll have about the alternate, and if we don't have it in there right now, let's make sure that it's in there, number 1. Number 2, Brett and I will talk about how we can get someone over to the cars. Last Monday we couldn't. Many other days this week, we could probably get someone over there, so we'll work on that.
I think you probably even have too many people lined up. But half the time, even the teachers are not really even helping my kids get out of the car. And I don't think my kids need help getting out of the car. I think one of those people could probably go down to the other line. I mean, even thinking on the Montessori where they only have like a couple of people
They have
in
3 or 4.
helping.
Yeah, they just have a few. And
It's just a matter of having those people who are out there actually help out, because last year it was Adam, is that his name? Adam and Liz only, to be honest, 2 people, but they were moving, you know, like, and you know, obviously Mr. Bickle is our savior, always helping out, but you know, when you have those people who are actually moving and doing stuff, Caroline will move. But if you're just standing there opening the car and expecting a kindergarten to get all this stuff and come out, it's gonna take a minute.
well, and parents now, I see parents getting out of their car. And I went
Yeah.
to go get their kids out. They're already out of the car in the back,
Yeah.
opening the door.
Yeah.
They're coming from the opposite
The
side.
other side, yes. You hope, I mean,
We're trying to educate the entire time.
Yeah.
so I think because parents want to make the car line go faster, they hop out and try and help get all their
I
stuff
think
out.
a number of them
You can't get the
that hop out,
Not work.
a number of them that hop out
So Ms. Compton here
don't
gets
help
him
at
out,
times.
Mr. Bickle gets him out.
It takes longer.
That's it.
Takes longer.
Otherwise, I gotta.
For some of them works.
Well, just know, Jerry, that.
We'll continue to work on it.
Just know that the reassuring emails and everything, that's the reason we don't have a room full of people screaming and yelling about car line tonight, is because you addressed it right away.
Yeah.
You just let people know that it's in the works. You met with volunteers and staff. It was a person approach. And
We appreciate that.
we really do appreciate it. That's the way things need to be addressed in the school, is when it happens, nip it in the bud, avoid the room or avoid the screaming and the yelling.
If we hadn't corrected it, I might not have been here tonight.
Me either.
I want to point out too, just looking at it statistically, if you for volunteers, and we find that the time is vastly reduced. And there are signups on Volunteer Spot. It did go out last Thursday in the newsletter. I can talk to a couple, and I have a couple in there, but on average, I haven't had a groundswell of people realizing that there's a correlation between me helping out one time a week and other parents doing the same thing and doing their one time and then making the car line go that much faster.
This morning I looked over, 8:25, there were no cars in line. There were cars coming up, but there were no cars in line at 8:25 this morning.
It'll get better and better as the year
Yes.
goes on. It's always rough the first month, all right,
Well, everybody's
it's
here
October
too.
now.
This is when there's people start to get sick, all that kind of stuff. That
Sure.
first month, everybody's here. There's no vacation. People take their kids out of school. It's that whole thing too.
When it gets cold outside, we don't have as many people out there.
I'll be there.